Namaste and a warm welcome to another episode of Namaste Tokyo. Let's go across and see what we have in store in the segment India in Tokyo. India in Tokyo. Since 2012 London Olympics, Indian households started to buy more rackets, badminton rackets. Saina Nehwal, the torchbearer of Indian badminton. There was a revolution ever since she won that bronze in 2012. Of course, PV Sindhu took it to a different height with a hard-fought silver in the final of the 2016 women's badminton event. And now badminton is a sport wherein we expect medals at the highest level. India has witnessed a badminton revolution, so to speak, in the past few years. It's a combination of talent and good preparation and planning and exposure and facility to the players. Now, PV Sindhu is still in with a very, very good chance. She might get the gold, but again, her journey may not be that easy because badminton is a tough sport. It's so much a physical sport and is a mental sport as well. But the one good thing about Sindhu is that she is a big occasion, a big match, a big event player. And now, there are quite a few opponents who could probably give her a tough time. But her nemesis, the biggest of all, Carolina Marin from Spain, is not there. That might tilt the equation in her favor slightly, but let's not forget Taizu Ying or Okuhara or Yamaguchi or Intanon. These are brilliant players who could give Sindhu a run for her money, but we still expect a medal. It's pretty sad that Kidambi Srikanth could not qualify. But Sai Praneeth is a brilliant player. The only thing with Sai is probably the fact that he shows a little bit of impatience. He likes to finish off rallies very quickly, but if he can hang in there and show more patience, we might see Sai doing pretty well. And then the two young boys who are probably the dark horses, who could be the dark horses. I'm talking about the combination of Chirag Shetty and Sathik Sairaj RANKIREDDY. Two have been in brilliant form, and with an experienced coach to assist them, they are progressing very rapidly in the international circuit. To expect a medal may be a little far stretch, but still we never know. They are brilliant players in the men's doubles. So this is what we can expect from the Indian badminton players in Tokyo, the shuttlers in Tokyo, and let's wish them all the very best. It's time to meet the champion. There are great players, there are great coaches, but there are very few occasions when there's a two-in-one, a merger of both. We're going to meet somebody who has been an Olympian, a national champion who represented India in badminton in the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. Let's go across and talk to him. Joining me today on Namaste Tokyo is one of the most prominent figures in Indian sport, and Indian badminton. Has been a national champion for many years and has been an Olympian and has been a major contributor in India becoming a force to reckon with in world badminton. It's none other than you, Vimal Kumar. Vimal, what a pleasure having you on Namaste Tokyo. Thank you so much for joining in.
Yep, thank you so much for having me.
The good news is that Olympics is happening. There were a lot of speculation. There was a long wait, and it wasn't confirmed till very recently. Now, at least we have a go-ahead signal, and we know it's happening for sure, which is a good news. How different is it going to be this Olympics from a participant's perspective? Before we get into your Olympic memory, we'll start with that because it's something very important. So you are preparing for a big event, and something unexpected comes in. It brings the world to a standstill. And you know that you're at the peak of your training, because you're seeing something right up there, and then it gets postponed. How does it affect an athlete?
Definitely it is very traumatic for the athletes because last 1.5 years, they have been going through this. But the most important thing, the athletes can be happy because every important athlete, of course, whether they are a medal contender or not, taking part in the Olympic Games. And so I'm very happy that Japan is going ahead with it, and the International Olympic Committee is also in favor of it. And So that is one plus factor for the athletes under the circumstances. Then if you look at it, yes, you have to make, it is not easy because the athletes have gone through a lot of stress. So it is very important that the organizing committee make it a lot more, stress-free for the athlete. That should be their first priority. They cannot put them through any more of these hassles, 2 days quarantine, then you don't do quarantine, then you are tested again. See, every athlete going into the Olympic Games, they're all fit. They're all gone through, they have taken their 2 doses of the vaccine or whatever, as per prescribed norms, everything they have done. They have done that. That's why they're going to Tokyo. And when they are there, it is up to the organizing committee to ensure that, things are made it a lot more simple for them, because they're all under so much of stress. They have to perform. And, if you put them through, so that is their priority. So everybody should understand these things, And so I was a little disappointed to hear Japan putting so much of conditions, In fact, I thought, they should be vaccinating their people. And make it, stress-free for the athletes.
Absolutely.
So that is the only difference. Otherwise, yes, some could be better prepared, some might not be, and be prepared, enough. It is not like any other Olympic Games.
Right. They say any sport is played in the mind before it's played on the field, but never before it has been played in the mind like it has been this year.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Olympics it is. And 1988-89, you were the national champion, and you were probably at the peak of your career going into the Barcelona Olympics, and it had a difference because badminton became a medal event for the first time in 1992.
True. Yeah.
Result-wise, it may not have been great on paper, but I'm sure the experience is something which you cherish. So take me through that experience of being there in the Olympic Village and the entire thing.
Yeah, I think in 1988, when they declared badminton that it will be a medal sport at the Olympic Games in Barcelona, and I was in '88, I was at the peak of my career, and because then when I managed to qualify in '92, I was towards the end of my international career. I was nearly 30, but whatever it is, it is a dream for every athlete to be at the Olympic Games, to compete. And prior to that, of course, I was at the Asian Games and Commonwealth Games, and such things were there. But my era, many of the top players, like even senior to us, Prakash Padukone and Morten Frost Hansen, all those greats could never compete in the Olympic Games. But I was fortunate, maybe towards the end, at least I could make it to the Olympic Games.
Right.
But that is very, very special. And at the Olympic Games, you come across all the superstars, and you are sitting and dining with all the best athletes in the world. And so those sort of experiences are very, very special. But badminton, maybe I can say I can always say that I'm the first Olympian. You feel very proud of it as far as badminton is concerned. Of course, I had another player, Dipankar Bhattacharya, with me, and then Madhumita Bisht in the women's singles. We were the three. And of course, I didn't have a very good outing at the games. I lost in the opening round to Thomas Stuart Lauritsen from Denmark. In fact, I've beaten him in the previous year at the All England and other things. But he was a youngster, and he went on to win the bronze medal.
Right.
And so what I did was, after the Olympic Games, once I finished with my badminton, and I went and watched athletics. So that was my favorite.
Okay. You played the doubles too? You played the doubles too with Dipankar?
Yeah, Dipankar, because that time the qualification norms were such that, if you have qualified for the singles, you could also compete in the... they permitted that, and so that way, even though we lost to Rasif and Jelani Sidek in the men's double. They were the Malaysia's top doubles combination, and so that was that is another experience I've had in Barcelona, and but main thing was the athletics, and myself. My company then was Ramesh Krishnan, the tennis player, and Leander was very young. That was his first Olympic Games, so he was just 19 years. So we all went and watched. I don't think the tennis guys also did very well, and we went and watched athletics, and so I could watch my main intention then was to watch Carl Lewis, and but unfortunately, Carl Lewis wasn't there at the for the 100 meters.
Linford Christie got it.
Linford Christie won. Yes,
yeah.
we watched that. In fact, at the trials, Carl Lewis couldn't make it to the US team.
Right.
But I was fortunate to watch the 100 meters. Then I could also watch the long jump finals. There I could see Carl Lewis winning the gold.
Yeah.
So that was something I really, really cherish at the
and
game.
That was against all expectations because Mike Powell was doing
Mike Powell
well
was he was, and I still remember Carl Lewis just did one jump. He cleared some 8.35 or something, and then just walked off. He didn't make other attempts, whereas right from Mike Powell, they were all struggling, and he still ended up winning the gold. A lot of people thought it was arrogance, but I thought that was confidence, with which he dealt with it, and so that I could see that, so that was a very special moment for me, and
it was just lovely hearing that from you, because there's a lot of people, and rightly so, sportsmen are going to be very focused, and sometimes they can be self-absorbed and self-obsessed even. But to hear, you speak passionately about watching that. I mean, you represent your country and you have the pride, and then you also have the joy of watching these people all coming together to one common platform is the ultimate sporting treat that one can get.
Yes, if you look at it in the past, there is a big change in mindset of the Indian athletes. See, when I was competing, taking part in the Olympics was considered something very special. That era, very few medal contenders. But the things that has changed now is the Indian athletes are now going to the Olympic Games to win a medal. So that is something I find it very, very good. So our sport has come a long way. And so that is good for Indian sport. Of course, we have a long way to go, and we still have a lot of catching up to do. But I'm very happy to see badminton, we have bridged the gap with international standards.
Wonderful. So my next question was to ask you, my intention was to ask you something related to that. You preempted it almost. So what I was trying to ask you is, early 80s, All England, Prakash won the All England. And 20 years later, Gopi did the same. These were few and far between in terms of, but I remember growing up and we only had Doordarshan. So when I remember watching you, Prakash, George, the left-hand,
Syed Modi was good.
Syed Modi was, I think by then Syed Modi had gone, because I was then Madhumita in the women. Brilliant players, but somehow the world level we had very little to celebrate for quite some time. But 2012 Olympics particularly, when Saina won the bronze, I think it kind of triggered almost a revolution. Even if you don't get a medal, you're always in contention. I mean, you always have at least 4 or 5 in the bracket of a medal hunt, which is very, very... So what do you think, Vimal, has changed in Indian badminton? Is just a sheer talent, where in Australian cricket team, they say, irrespective of the coach and the captain, they would have won because they had 4 or 5 players who could win any match against any opponent. Is it that, or is it that the system and the ecosystem has changed, wherein the environment is fostering the growth of more talent?
Yes, maybe that is something you can say. See, in the 80s or prior to that, and maybe in the 90s, things started slowly changing for the sport, because badminton was never a priority sport. And what has happened is in 2010 Commonwealth Games, when it was allotted to India, and the funding started getting better, and badminton immensely benefited from that. Of course, 4 years prior to that, we started getting funding. One is that. Then, of course, Prakash setting up, the Prakash Badminton Academy, and then Gopi winning the All England, and then he setting up his own academy, and then slowly, the things started changing in the country. And another important factor that has benefited badminton immensely is a change in scoring format. In 2006, the scoring format changed. So prior to that, only when you served, you got a point.
Right, 15
So,
it
it
was.
was endurance-based sport, and then
right.
once that changed, India was considered in the second line, third line of countries in the badminton. The badminton was basically dominated then by China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Korea, and
Japan.
Denmark from Europe. Japan, no, Japan used to be
Japan wasn't there. Yeah.
Japan.
I mean, now
wasn't,
Japan
of
is.
course, they were. Japan now has come up really. But then what has happened is the scoring format changing really benefited the players. Indians, many other countries.
I'll interrupt you there. So I want to ask you this technical question, which is it just the physical stamina that you require more when you have to win a point only on your serve, or is it a mental stamina too that you're talking about?
No, both. Both. If you look at it, badminton is very technical and very physical. So that was always there. But the main thing is, as far as the endurance, it was an endurance-based sport and speed endurance. So Indians were struggling with that. Maybe a few exceptional players were there, but then this particularly helped countries like India, Thailand, Japan, Hong Kong. Many of these countries benefited from the scoring format, change in the scoring format, and also our standards in physical training aspects also improved. We have good physical trainers now, good physios. So they also contributed immensely to this revival of the sport. And the other important thing is for badminton revival is badminton was made affordable, maybe by various academies, because at grassroots level, it was made affordable. Unlike tennis, it is still very expensive to train because it costs a lot of money. And I would say the US rates equivalent in India for tennis coaching, so that is something very tough. But badminton, it was made more affordable. And so that really helped the youngsters to take to the sport. And then Saina and Nehwal doing well. That really changed everything, and Saina, I would say is the real flag bearer, for the revival of the sport after Prakash Gopi and all those people. Saina really changed things around for the visibility for the sport. It is her performances really made a big, huge difference.
To add to what you said, and I always felt that Saina Nehwal is the real first superstar of Indian badminton in the sense that Olympic medal makes a lot of difference. And not just that, she was consistently winning the tour tournaments as well. Now, before we move on to the next one, I'm going to take a slight digression here, just take you back to the Olympics, your Olympics. It's going to be a rapid fire round of just 3 questions in 15 seconds, which means we have 5 seconds for each question. Just to refresh your memory, I'm sure it's going to be the way that you have answered my questions so far. I'm sure that this is just a cakewalk for you. You participated in '92. Who was the men's champion, gold medalist in the '92 edition?
Yeah, that was Alan Budi Kusuma from Indonesia.
Yeah, and who can forget that pair of Alan Budi Kusuma and Susi Shushanti, husband and wife later.
He married her, and they were.
And in fact, I met them in Indonesia, and I could not recognize Alan because he's completely out of training.
He's lost.
Too fun. Now, Deepankar and you participated in this is the second one in the doubles. You lost to Saidak brothers. Do you remember the scoreline?
It was digit points. That's all I can say. It was an 8 and 6 or 15.
6-15 and 3-15. It was 15 because I brought
I know. Yes.
The guys who started following badminton now in the last few years, they wouldn't know the 15 existed. It's all 21. And
we had 2 serves. We could do twice. The first serve, second serve, but that is not there now.
Right. Yeah, 2 serves in doubles. Yeah. Now, one thing that I noticed in that, this is the third question for you. There were 16 medals, 15 of them going to Asian countries. Indonesia was at the peak of it. I mean, sadly, they're not the same force to reckon with anymore, which is good for India, maybe. But 15 of the 16 medals went to Asian countries. Which country did
Denmark.
bag the... Yeah, it's Lauritsen, I mean, who beat you the first
Thomas Stuart
round.
Lauritsen, I lost to him. He won the medal.
Lost.
Bronze medal. Yeah.
Well done, well done, well done. It's 3-on-3. Now, coming back to a very serious question. Now, you have never minced your words. You have been, you said it's going to be tough for Sindhu this time to reproduce the same magic because the weight of expectations is huge. So what are the reasons you feel is going to be tough for her?
No, of course, she's in the limelight. But one good thing, I'm hopeful of Sindhu is this. She's the world champion, so she's used to all these. And she's one of the most consistent Indian players in the world. Big events, the big stage. Of course, she has to win an All England title. That Indians we feel very, very high. If we can win an All England. But if you look at it, World Championships. She's got 2 silver medals, 2 bronze medals, and then she has won the gold. And she's the defending world champion. And Olympic Games silver medalist. So the focus will be on there. There's a lot of pressure. She's working with a new coach last 1.5 years. She's working with a Korean coach. So she is a lot more independent. And so such factors are there, but if you look at it, the professional tennis system and others, the badminton is also maybe going on those lines because otherwise, many of the Asian countries, we run the sport, everything is the association controlled and, they decide everything, but, it is slowly changing. Maybe in India, it is changing. So Sindhu definitely is our best medal prospect. And I'm still very hopeful and maybe, men's singles also, you never know. Both have a very favorable draw in their groups. I think, they both can top their groups. And
the fact that her Spanish nemesis is absent is not there. Probably might take the sheen off the competition, but it's good for her. The chances are
another girl
brighter.
is there. The Chinese Taipei girl is there.
Yes.
So you cannot rule her out as well. So she's another tricky girl and, who has been troubling Sindhu. But I think Sindhu should be if he has no injuries and no issues, I'm sure she can put up a good show and hopefully she can get a medal, gold.
And what's your realistic expectation from Sai Praneeth?
Sai, Sai's issue has always been he doesn't like he's a very flashy player, very skillful. So he likes to score quick points and, when somebody keeps the shuttle in play and retrieves and he hates that sort of a situation and can lose focus very quickly. And, but again, he's one player, if you look at it, who has got a medal at the World Championships after Prakash. India got that medal after 36 years. Many of the others couldn't do that. So he has also performed well at the highest stage and beaten lots of good players. But it is in the group stage again. What I've noticed, he will be playing Mark Hallo, from Netherlands. He's the current is an All England semi-finalist. So he can be a tricky player for him to deal with. But the other guy is Misha Sieberman, from Israel. So I don't think that should be much of a problem for Sai. But Sai, in my opinion, can top the group. If he tops the group, he will get more confidence because none of the Indian players have had good match practice of late. So they need these matches. So I'm happy that the draw has been favorable to both of them, Sindhu and Sai.
Wonderful. And one is always impressed with the kind of energy and vibe. They're still very young, but Chirag, Shetty and Sairaj Rankireddy, quite a handful, I should say.
Satvik,
Sairaj Rankireddy, Is it realistic to hope for a medal? Do you see them becoming the dark horses this time?
Yes. Again, main aspect is they have beaten the best combinations. Only thing the top in the group. The number one Indonesian combination. That is there. That's a tough one to handle. And then of course they have the English combination and the Chinese Taipei combinations. So these are they are good, and so it is definitely not an easy task for them. So And if they can be at least come in as number 2 in their group, it can. Yeah, I would take it as a bonus. And but you never know. And but again, I feel a little sad because they have not got enough matches under the belt, because eventually that is required. And many of the other countries, they have good combinations, so to practice with. So these guys are one step ahead of everybody else in the country, and so they definitely lack match practice. But Matthias Bo, I'm told, is doing a good job. He is also an Olympic medalist and an All England champion. So his experience, I'm sure, will should definitely pep them up, and I'm sure they can put in a good performance.
Before we wind up, and I want to ask you this: we live in a country where appointing a cricket coach or sacking a cricket coach becomes a headline for ages. But sometimes we don't realize the kind of pressures and the challenges of coaches involved in. Maybe we talk about hockey at times, and we talk about the leagues. But when it comes to national teams, we normally don't even talk about it. But you have been one person who has been a star, significant contributor ever since. You are also responsible for the growth and the revolution that happened in Indian badminton as a coach as well. What kind of
thanks for that compliment? Thanks.
It's not a compliment, it's a fact, and the nation is grateful because I'm personally very happy to see badminton grow the way it has in the last few years. What kind of pressures do the coaches go through as far as the badminton circuit is concerned?
Yeah, it is very, very significant, and because unless in badminton it has not come to the stage like in a professional tennis. Professional tennis, if the player loses the whole at the highest level, that is it. What they do is they straight away blame it on the coach, and the coach gets a sack. They look for another coach. But that is also not the right way to look at it. Because as a high professional athlete, it is very tough for them to come to terms with the fact, they will never take that responsibility. If they lose, it is very natural. They look for the things around. Even if you provide them 100 things, they will look at that one thing that was not provided, so they will latch on to it. So that is the elite athlete mentality. So definitely coaching, it is, in my opinion, it's a thankless job. But you also get a lot of satisfaction. But you cannot blame the athlete. They will be like that. That is, so they are driven. They want that performance. They want that success. They will go to any extent to get that extra. And so that is part of life, and you have to accept it.
Amazingly balanced, and I'm sure that comes from the fact that you've been on both sides, and that really helps in staying balanced. Wonderful. Vimal, before we wind up, it's been a dramatic last 15 months, especially for the athletes, and uncertainty and stuff. And finally, the good thing is they are there in Tokyo. What's the message that you want to send out to the badminton team and to the Indian contingent in general?
No, in Indian contingent, I would say, they all should be thankful that you're able to compete at the Olympic Games. First is that, so they did not cancel that, so that itself is a big plus factor. So take that as a positive thing, and then the vaccine is available. So we all get so things are so we have to eventually have that hope, and we need to learn to live with this virus, and whatever it is, the coronavirus, we have to learn to live with it. So I think if they can come to terms with that, I'm sure they've all done their homework really well. Otherwise, you wouldn't be you will not be going to Tokyo. So like I mentioned earlier, you are in with a chance for a medal. You've done your homework well. So remain positive, but don't get too bogged down with expectations. Don't look that I have to get a medal. Don't be desperate for it. It will come automatically. If they can get to that mindset, I'm sure our athletes will do well.
It's amazing to note how every champion thinks alike in a way. The words might be different, but they all say focus on the process, enjoy the results, let the results be taken care of themselves. What a pleasure it was, Vimal. Thank you so much for joining. I know you're busy with a lot of things, and thank you so much for talking to me on Namaste Tokyo here of the week. And let me take this opportunity to also thank you on my personal behalf, on behalf of the week, and on behalf of the entire country for being a a torchbearer, one of those prominent figures in Indian badminton, and for the revolution in Indian badminton. May you help many more medalists and champions to come out in the future. Thank you so much for talking to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you.
Just as great. Near misses, what could have been? India didn't have much to showcase at the international level in terms of athletics. Norman Pritchard, which is pre-independence. After that, Milkha Singh in 1960 Rome, and 1984 we had P.T. Usha, and a little more recently in 2004 Athens we had Anju Bobby George. We're going to talk about Anju Bobby George. Well, most of the people know that she missed a medal. She finished 5th, but what many people don't know is the story and the struggle behind that. Now let's go a year back. It was in 2003, just a few days before the World Championship in Paris, that she realized that she had some physical discomfort. The test revealed that she was operating with just one kidney. Renal agenesis. That's what the condition is called in medical terminology. Now, what would you do? She had the choice of opting out, but she decided to give it a fight. The entire thing changed. Her hydration, the protein, had to be very careful, couldn't push herself, but still she did enough to win a medal. A bronze in long jump at the World Championships in Paris in 2003 still remains India's only medal at the championship. And then, riding on that confidence, she went to Athens, and she wasn't physically feeling any good, but still she finished 5th. And now the thing is, in World Championship, she jumped a distance of 6.7 meters. That was enough for her to win a bronze. But she bettered that in Athens. 6.83 was a national record, her personal best, but wasn't enough to win her a medal there. And the subsequent year, she won another championship at the international level where the top 8 athletes based on ranking would participate, and she won the gold with 6.75, and she rates that as her personal best performance. When you take into account all that she had to go through, the 5th position which she secured at Athens is as good as a medal, isn't it? Anju Bobby George, just as great.